Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. We took a little bit of a hiatus, a couple of personal things going on in the background, including the new little one, but we're finally ready to present the process of going solar for you guys. I'm going to break this down into two videos. The first video is mostly going to cover the install, some of the hardware, and a couple of the technical items. The second video, I'm going to catalog the process of actually getting everything set up post-install, what's usually required, what was required here in Texas, and the end result of all of that hard work. So without further ado, let's get started with phase one of the install. All right, so here we are on day one of the solar install. They went ahead and drilled the hole, the panels right on the other side of this meter on the inside of the home. I'll show you guys that a bit later. And they just basically bent some EMT and passed the cables through the disconnects on the other side. We're going to go around here in a bit so I can show you guys that. We'll show you the panels, and I'll show you the camera rig I set up to do my time-lapse recording. So here's my little temporary rig. I have a Wise V3 and the Wise outdoor camera. The outdoor camera's on the top with its battery. I just took a piece of 1/2-inch EMT and got a little coupler, two sticks of 5-foot 1/2-inch EMT. And my camera thread actually fit right in the top, so I just popped that in the top and used another coupler up there, and I used the magnetic base and the screw hole from the V3 lined up perfect with the bottom screw on the coupler, so I latched it in there and just used the zip ties to keep it from wiggling around. And here is our anchor battery that we did when we did the axis comparison video. So I figured this would be a good opportunity to do a time lapse, see how much battery we burn off of the main, the actual outdoor camera and the V3. And it's kind of been a tale of two cameras, to be honest with you. So I've had issues with trying to do the time lapse with the V3. It's not showing up properly, but it is recording. If you manually stop it, it'll do the video. The wireless camera up top actually midway through the process just all of a sudden locked up, so I'm gonna reset that so we can still catch our time lapse, and I'm gonna leave the V3 running and just restart the video just to make sure we get everything. You know, it's kind of the whole point in the setup is to kind of track the progress. You can kind of see they have their cables on the roof for support. So that's what they're going to use when they're walking up there to kind of, you know, keep them from falling as well. And we should be rocking and rolling tomorrow. So now I'm going to show you guys the in-phase panels. These are the newer 350 models, whereas the old ones were the 310s. So with the new 350 models, you need fewer panels. I think I wound up only needing 19. If it were the older 310 models, I probably would have needed 4 or 5 more panels, which obviously would take up more roof space. So this is one of the improvements of the newer solar technology. Fewer panels, a little bit cleaner look, cleaner design, not as, you know, you don't see the ugly blue stuff you used to see. They're a lot more efficient. All right, so here's our in-phase combiner. This is where the solar panels are going to transfer all the energy into, and then from here it's going to go, you have your basically your emergency shut-off safety switch here. So this would be your manual shut-off for the solar for any maintenance or any issues that you may run into. Is, you know, basically like an emergency shut-off. This goes back, like I mentioned, and ties back into the grid. All right, and so here we have our patch panel. You can see where they actually cut the hole right here on the right side. They added the, you know, lock washer like they're supposed to and everything. Well, lock nut, I guess. They added the ground. Actually, they just tapped into that ground. And you can see up here they have the taps that basically tap into what's this, 150 amp, and that 150 amp, and they basically just tapped off into that. These wires are actually smaller because we only need about 50. If we, the tech told me if we had 60 or more panels, then we probably would be looking at the same gauge as the 150, but instead they were able to use the smaller gauge wire. Obviously easier to fish through, easier to handle. They didn't need to cut as big of a hole, stuff like that. So that's why those wires look smaller. And they just use, some people call these a vampire tap, or, like a vampire bite, or whatever the technical term is for it. I'll throw that up here on the screen. But yeah, just basically a tap that taps into the main circuit and you just pass your wire through it. So, and that's going to be for obviously to power everything in the backflow. Okay, so while the time lapse of the solar roof install is playing out, I wanted to do a bit of housekeeping first and then address the install process that is playing out. One of the things I wanted to address first are the solar panels. They aren't actually made by Enphase, just the microinverters and the combiner are. The panels are actually made by a company called either Longi or Longi, depending on the pronunciation. They are the LR6-72PB model in the 350 variant, so they will produce up to 350 watts per panel. So what I mentioned about having fewer panels with the newer, more dense technology was correct. However, I'm actually going with 34 panels and not 19. With 34 panels, I have the ability to overproduce most months out of the year. And since I live in Texas and it's usually hot and sunny here, I'm looking at roughly about a 70-30 split by my current calculations. I should produce close to double what I consume most of those months, allowing me to get a check back each month to allow me to pay off the panels much sooner. But we'll go into depth on that in the next video. On to what the installers are doing now. There are two main components going up currently. The first of which is the solar deck made by RSTC Enterprises, which is our flashed PV roof mount combiner and enclosure. So I know that was a mouthful, but no, it doesn't run Adobe Flash. Its main function is to provide a housing for the cables coming up out of the roof and function as pretty much a junction box for the cabling. The term flashed or flashing refers to the metal piece below it. This metal piece is basically just serving as a water barrier per se to prevent water from getting behind the device and into the roof. The second thing they're installing is the Rocket 2.0 rail-free solar roof mount kit by a company called EcoFasten Systems. This kit is a lot more efficient than kits I've seen installed by others and will allow for a much quicker and smoother install, as you will see. This is one of the main factors that allows them to complete the install in one day. The kit is comprised of 5 main components, which are the load-bearing feet, the mounts each individual panel sits on, the array skirt, and a coupling piece. When assembling, you can install the panels in a grid configuration, allowing for the panels to interlock into a system that provides strength to the install, but also allows the system to be completely modular. The panel mounts and couplings have spring tensions on them, which allow the panel to click into place, but also allow for a slight bit of flex. So as the install is going, you are seeing them make the roof penetrations for the flashing kits that the panel mount kits will rest on top of. There's a single penetration for each, which is caulked and sealed to prevent leaking. You will also see the black tray going up, which is the array skirt. This serves 2 functions that I'm aware of. It allows a place for the edge of the panels to rest, and it unifies each array of the panels. It also makes for a cleaner and more nice looking install, in my opinion. Now you see they're actually putting the panels up, and you can see they click into place very quickly. And that's kind of what I was talking about. So they're putting each of these panels up and then using the interlocks between them to put them into place. And I know you guys kind of saw them, standing on them and so on and so forth, but don't worry, these panels are made to take that kind of abuse. They're made to take direct strikes, for hail damage and things of that nature. While they're putting these panels up, you also can see that they're working in the background on the side of the house near that in-phase combiner, like we mentioned previously. So the in-phase combiner, it's actually an in-phase IQ combiner. The combiner is where all of the wires tie into before backfeeding into your panel and then back into the grid if you have it set up that way. This combiner also has a cellular modem or can tie back into your internet via RJ45 depending on your configuration. But we'll cover more of that in video 2. So they've already gotten the 2 south arrays up. Now they're working on this east array. And again, they just kind of click into place. While we talk about that, we'll go ahead and I'll just cover a few other reasons why I decided to go with Infinity. Mostly because of their warranty and the fact that I don't really have to worry about it. I could have probably done this myself, but I would have had to get an electrician, go through the HOA and all of those hassles. And I still wouldn't have had a warranty. So if one of these panels would have been damaged some type of way, I'd have been out of pocket to replace it. You know, that could have been downtime, so on and so forth. With the in-phase system and going through Infinity, I don't have that problem. They monitor the system. You're able to monitor the system. They said if anything goes wrong, 9 times out of 10, they'll be alerted before you alert them, but you have that option as well. And they'll come out and, you know, fix the system or replace the panels, you know, at no cost. That's part of the warranty. The panels are also warranted for 25 years. So that's just one less thing I have to worry about. And once I pay these off, you know, the sooner I pay them off, I'll basically be getting, you know, free electricity. So that's also a bonus when you go to sell the house. If you decide, you can market that, you know, to a potential buyer as, hey, you won't have an electricity bill, you know, for whatever the length of these panels are moving forward. So that's something else to think about, guys. I think now would be a great time to tour the system and show you the end result of how everything came out. Okay, everybody, so here we are at the end of day 2, and they have pretty much wrapped up with the solar panels. I'm gonna throw up an overhead shot on the screen just so you guys can kind of get a visual of how the panels look on the roof. But more surprisingly, well, or not, so I set up this V3 as I mentioned, and the Wise outdoor cam. The outdoor cam, I did time lapses with both. The outdoor cam didn't even make it through the day. The V3 is still going off of this Anchor battery pack that I set up and made a bit of a weatherproof enclosure. It has 2 of the 4 bars left, so that means it's used up about 15 milliamps. So you can get about a solid 48 hours with a 15 milliamp and a V3, and most of that was time lapse. Or I'm still thinking you could probably get a solid week with just straight up video footage. So keep that in mind. All right, so here we go with the setup. Like I said yesterday, they tied the shutoff into the main panel, and then from there, here's our solar converter, which is what converts from the source to the panel. And from here it goes up into the attic. And for a cleaner look, they actually installed the wiring under the roof, and it all goes to a main junction spot in each of the panel grids. So you may not be able to see it on camera, but I'm gonna see if I can get an angle where you can see it. All right, so that's the east side. And then we have panels on the south side. So I'm pleased with the results. So next we'll go up in the garage and I'll show you guys real quick the wiring that went into the attic to hide everything on the roof. Looks real clean. You don't see any exposed wires. All you see from the outside are going to be the panels, and that's exactly what I wanted. These guys did a wonderful job. So I highly recommend Infinity Energy. If you guys are in the Houston area, I'm going to put a contact in the description of the video. Just make sure you let him know you saw the video on my channel about solar and you're interested, and he'll take care of you. All right, so here we are on day 2, and I mentioned I would show you guys how they ran everything up here in the attic. So these orange cables right here go to that conduit that's on the eave. They ran it up through here along the rafters, and they go into those boxes, and I tried to show you guys under the panel. And they did a good job in the attic. For the most part, I'll be honest, when they were in the attic, I didn't really notice the difference between them being in the attic and in the roof. And everything seems to be in good place. No holes in the sheetrock, which is very important. And we are just waiting now to get our everything inspected. They're going to run a test as soon as we have a day with daylight to verify that all the panels work properly, and then the inspection from the utility company, and we should be good from there. So they said we're about probably a week out. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this first half of Going Solar. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe. I actually changed the channel name to Idea Home and Tech because moving forward in 2021, we're going to focus on both of those avenues, not specifically home automation. So if you guys are interested in stuff like that, like I said, make sure you hit the bell and subscribe to see future videos and everything we do here moving forward. See you guys on the next one. Later.